Everybody, we're gonna call the meeting to order here at 6 o'clock. Thanks for coming. So to start out, we will do the Pledge of Allegiance. So if we could all stand. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Does anyone else get nervous that they're going to forget how it goes? Because I do every time we say it.
It's like saying the national anthem.
Right. Okay, so if we could do a roll call of members present, please.
Mr. McAfee.
Here.
Mr. Mataro. Here. Mr. Baracco.
Here.
Ms. McCafferty.
Here.
And Mr. Light is not present.
Okay, and staff present.
Sherry
We
Wilkerson.
have our clerk, Ms. Sherry Wilkerson, and our deputy clerk, Ms. Pat Schroep. And now we move on to the approval of the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the regular meeting March 11th agenda.
May I make a comment? We have students present to make presentations. Can we move them to the beginning of the meeting?
We can't really, because the first presentation has to get to Davison to do the same presentation.
Okay. Understood.
So, sorry about that. So we have a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor? Say
Aye.
aye. Any opposed? Okay, agenda's approved. Now we'll move on to the approval and amendments of minutes. And just a side note here, I have December 10th back on here. When I was preparing the newsletter, I noticed that the minutes from the November 10th meeting and the December, was it November 10th? I'm getting the dates wrong. November 12th and December 10th, new business items were identical. So we just had the new business items updated so we can approve the correct minutes for December rather than the ones that we originally did. So that's why December 10th is back on here. So I'm looking for a motion to approve both sets of minutes. We can do them all in one chunk. We don't have to divide them out.
I make a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes for 2/11 and the regular meeting minutes for 2/10.
Second.
12/10, you said 2/10.
Oh, yeah, 12/10. 2018
Oh, okay.
as well.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
Yep, no worries. And Doug seconded it. So
Correct.
all in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, we're good to go. So now we're going to open it up to the first round of public comment. Let's limit these to agenda items only. Please address the chair, and let's remember we're still holding a meeting here. Let's keep it professional and keep it nice. So anybody up for some public comment? Oh, and if you could just state your name, that helps us.
Hello everyone, my name is Katie Bernard. I'm a teacher at Goodrich High School, and I'm here today because I'd like to discuss my leadership class becoming involved in helping beautify Goodrich, the village of Goodrich, the parks, the streets, and I'd like to kind of get some momentum and start some partnership between the town and the student body.
That's awesome. I like that idea. this is typically I don't comment on public comment till the end, but I'm going to because you're a school teacher and you have a great idea to get kids involved. So my recommendation would be to get with Sherry Wilkerson here, and she can, you know, figure out what like tasks need to be done, if there's anything like that they could assist DPW with like trash pickup or something, Earth Days coming up. I know like we have huge cleanup and thing like that, so good on you. I love it.
Thanks.
I love seeing that.
I also have 2 students who would like to build a little library. They should have been here.
There.
We're right behind you.
Hey, you snuck it in, come on up. They were the first ones here.
I didn't see them.
He told us to be here 15 minutes
I
early.
did. Come on forward.
Okay.
Better watch it, go get the other
It's
way.
on the agenda.
This is on the agenda? Okay, so we will talk with you guys when you guys are up on the agenda, but I'm digging what I'm seeing so far. So sit tight and we'll get to you.
And then-
Okay.
Awesome.
Hey, did you want to follow up?
We're on the agenda.
Right, but like,
I don't think that is, we're the storybook path.
Right, they're different.
They're the library.
Yeah,
They're
they're
not on the agenda.
Oh,
We are on the agenda.
you guys are on the
Yeah,
agenda.
they're
You're
not.
Okay,
yeah,
so,
I had called earlier.
So why don't you guys come back up?
come on back up. We got a little confused.
Mine
You're
down.
getting your steps in, right? If anyone wears a
There you go.
Fitbit, you're getting your steps
Why don't
in.
you guys introduce yourselves?
My name is Dylan Maxwell. I'm a senior at Goodrich High School, and I've been in Goodrich schools for about 6 years now.
My name is Michael Talbot. I am a senior at Goodrich, and I've been here my entire life.
Oh, okay.
One up, yeah.
So tell us what that's supposed to be.
That's what it's
Essentially,
up.
what this is a prototype of what we hope to be a final product if approved by you guys. Essentially, what we want to do is we want to create a library, a little library for kids, particularly for the Reed and Oak Tree kids. As stated, a little bit earlier, we have both been living in Goodrich for years now, and I've been around the community, and I know, the spots where people like to hang around and where the kids, like to be. And what we want to do basically is we want to create a little library to put into the park, the Commons Park where the basketball courts is. We want to put it there just to make, this is basically just a prototype of what we wanted to do, essentially. This is a post, but basically what we wanted to do was we wanted to be able to put it in the ground, and we wanted it just to be basic where all you really have to do is keep in mind it's mostly for little children. So what we wanted to do was we wanted to have them, we're going to fill it up obviously.
You're doing great.
Aw.
You're doing great.
And plain and simple, we just want to have a little library for kids. We think it'd be a great idea because as children get older, at least from what I've seen and experienced still being a young person, the older you get, the less and less you want to read, the less you want to do things that might necessarily benefit you for your future. And if you're able to do something like this where kids wouldn't expect to see something like this, and they're like, oh, what's this? And they walk up and we have it, look really nice and beautiful and vibrant, and there's a ton of books in here for kids. We think it would just be an amazing idea because it doesn't affect anyone or anything in a negative way. All it does is benefit the community as a whole. It benefits the children that will hopefully be representing this county and village someday. And something simple like this, we think, is a perfect idea for the kids. Basically, what the band plan is, this is basically a prototype of what it would look like. Four posted, thank you. We wanted to have 4 posted into the ground with 4x4s and elevated off of the ground, basically. And just a few, just little steps to get up there, open it up, grab a book, and we think that it would be an amazing idea. This is basically what we want it to look like when it's a finished product. It took us about 2.5 hours to make because we had to cut the wood, we had to cut the 3/4 plywood, and we had to screw everything together, we had to paint it, make it look nice and pretty. And this essentially is a start to what we hope to be something really cool for the kids in the community.
Yep, I like the idea. My concern is your timing.
Okay.
Only, and I say that only because we have a drain project
Mhm.
that's gonna be cutting through, where the basketball courts are.
Okay.
So, that being said, I like this idea. I feel like I'm on Shark Tank. I know, I
What's your
know.
projections?
Yeah, how do you see your sales?
Ultimately, the guys can have it built in probably a couple weeks' time, but depending on the installation, of course, we'd want your approval on where and when.
Right.
So we can delay the installation if that need be, or we can speed it up depending on your schedule.
So a couple things. One, you want a little kid to fit in that thing? And you can't get an iPad out of there? 'Cause that's like.
I want to find a beagle to go on top.
Alright, so,
That'd be awesome.
I'm assuming you guys did some research and you saw the libraries on Google and you see what they look like.
Yeah, well, initially, the idea was, I saw one at the Reed School, and it looked really, it looked like a cool idea, and at the time, I was thinking of stuff, we were thinking of things to do for our capstone, and we just came to the conclusion that that would be a really cool idea, because again, all it does is benefit. There's nothing that installing something like this for children, could necessarily not, at least in our own humble opinion, affect them in a negative way.
And I'm assuming, one, the wood shop class is not,
No, we did this ourselves.
okay.
There's no eject class.
Okay, so I'm a former Kiwanis member, and we actually, Davison wood shop class, we paid for all the material and had 4 of them built for Davison. Have you got a chance to look at theirs, by any chance?
Not the
Drive
rest of
around?
Davidson,
You should
no.
drive around the city of Davison and see
Okay.
theirs.
I'm in Davison all the time.
Yeah,
so-
they're very nice, and they, they're decorated, they have the logos and all that kind of stuff, but, no, I like it, and I think getting books should be pretty easy. And if you're looking for people to fund stuff like that, because I'm assuming the materials are gonna cost you something, try to reach out to some of the.
We, both of our, well, my father is a construction worker and his dad is also an outdoor worker. So getting the materials for us to build it wouldn't necessarily be an issue because we both are surrounded around, wood. So, it would really, at that point, just be a matter of us building it and making it look pretty.
Awesome, I like the idea. Okay, so, when you guys have, sizes and things like that, come on back, come talk to us.
Yep.
Okay? And you guys did great, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Anybody else for some public comment? All right, I'll close the public comment. Love that thing. Oh, do you want to be public? Oh.
No, I'm
Oh,
gonna
it's
move this
just-
so I
oh.
can actually get everybody.
Oh, okay. Okay. Not only a camera guy, but also logistics. Okay, so now let's move on to the treasurer's report. Did we have one? I didn't see one in the, was it delayed?
I forgot, did I put them all, I think I put them all over there on the table.
Up on the table?
Oh, did I? Yeah, I must have. I didn't see the answer. I didn't see the
Thank you, Melissa. Thank you. I already have them.
Thank you,
I
ma'am.
need a coffee black.
Okay, so treasurer's report, our purple sheet. I'm looking for a motion.
Motion to approve as presented.
Support?
Okay, we have motion and support. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Okay, we're good with the treasurer's report. Now, moving on to section 9, our beautiful green sheet. Oh, okay, there's why I was throwing me off here. Our green sheet to authorize the bills and transfers. I will make a motion to authorize the bills and transfers dated February 1st, 2019 through February 28th, 2019.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion and support. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say no. Okay, we're good with that. Now, moving on to the administrator's report. We have a copy here on our table from Sherry. So do you want?
You need me to go through it, or is it good enough if I could go through it? Yes, no?
Yeah, go through it real quick.
Okay, real quick, we are experiencing some water problems here at the DPW garage and here at the building. The water's, when we turn on the faucet, it's coming out like black. So it's not fit to drink. It comes, we called Wolverine, they're gonna come out next Monday. They're the ones, I guess, that put in our water system. And they'll be here next Monday to look it over and see what's going on, and I will report back to you on that. The United States Census Bureau paid me a visit today. They dropped off flyers looking for people to work on the 2019 census. The pay starts out at $14 per hour, which isn't bad. They'll work around anybody's schedule. The flyers are, I have some upstairs at the counter, and I have some back here on the table. I also put it on our website. The DPW is in the process of obtaining, still in the process of obtaining 3 quotes for sweeping. And I'll be bringing it, for the street sweeping, I'll be bringing it back to the council in the April agenda. Last Friday, I received the 2019 chloride application agreement with Genesee County Road Commission. It will be on the April agenda. I met with our building inspector, and he's recommending a fee increase more in line with surrounding municipalities for building permits, houses, and garages and porches. It'll be on the April agenda. I mailed out 4 letters to local engineering companies requesting a quote along with the scope of work to be offered to perform an update to our master plan. Mr. Bass was very helpful with giving me some names of a couple of companies that he recommended. The construction, well, we just talked about that, for the Watkins Drain is to begin the 1st of June, no later than the 1st of July. From a risk management point of view, it's my recommendation that our park not be used during this time when they're in there digging holes and have large equipment in there. And that is the end of my report. Any questions?
I know what your question is. And this has absolutely nothing to do with what you've typed out, but he has IT right. Have they been notified to do some cleaning up of our website? Or
I have not gotten into contact with them. I wanted to discuss it with you
Okay,
first.
okay.
Get with you and get a plan.
Okay, yep, I was just,
So no.
okay, perfect. No, because I wanted to talk to you about that. So, and then,
Oh, one more thing. We may be having a planning commission meeting. I plan on having one. If I have a quorum, now I'm told I might not have a quorum because a couple of people aren't going to be there. No names. But I'm going to have to call everyone tomorrow to see if I'm going to end up with a quorum or not. But I have a few items that need to go before the planning commission.
okay, so possible planning.
Hopefully.
and,
We'll have one.
we were supposed to have had one, but we didn't have enough.
Didn't have a
people
quorum.
show, So I didn't have a quorum.
Number 1, just remind me, didn't we do something last year to the building for water at? Didn't we do something last year for water to this building?
I don't know when it was. We have, they did do something that cleared the
Yeah.
water up. But
Yeah,
it's
they were gonna
pretty
like
rare
clean, yeah, they were gonna clean the filtration
that- I don't
system
know
or
what they did.
something.
I just paid them. I have no idea what
Right,
they did.
right,
I think
but-
they did something.
Yeah, no, yeah,
Yes,
we
they-
did,
they
because
came
we
in.
had, we talked about reverse osmosis systems, I remember all of that.
I don't know
So-
if they actually, I don't think they did anything. I think they worked with the system that we have
They
currently.
didn't put any new equipment in.
They
Not
just,
that
I
I
think they
know of.
just
That would be a
cleaned what
DPW
we.
question.
Let's say if we got warranty on it.
Right. Right, and then, what else, was there anything else?
The DPW let me know that they're going to be filling in as many holes as they possibly can starting tomorrow with the weather breaking. So just to tell you that.
Yeah, no,
It's
that'll,
it's on the agenda for them to do start tomorrow.
perfect. So, Mr. Light is, not here for the street administrator's report. So I was hoping to have him speak, and then, also, I would like to start, I had gone into the office and, Sherry and I had talked a bit about getting, you know, some ideas, quotes, different ways to get our roads repaved, graded, fixed, whatever we have to do to get them drivable again. And then to work to have a public hearing, or not a public hearing, but a town hall set up for people to get information and ask questions, hopefully get answers. If we don't have answers for you, we can park them and then answer them at a later date at like a future town hall. But I think it's important that we start working on that. I know Mr. Baracco, you and Mr. Light had worked with some people before. I don't know if there's anything that you guys have that you could, you know, share with Sherry, or if if Sherry knows people, but we need to start having a conversation about what to do in a path forward. Because I get more emails on roads, and I know you guys get phone calls, and they're getting bad, and we got to do something. So then another thing I have written down in November, we had back when we had the meeting, it was about the ditch problem just near Fox Hollow. Like, it would be Eagle Road East between Fox Hollow and what I call the Stubbins house, which is just like at the village line. So there's that ditch there that I guess would overflow, and they had said that Matt had said that I think it was Aaron from the county garage could assist them with possibly finding ways to fix that ditch problem, or are we still on track with that? Okay. Okay, and then with regards to the closing of the park, are we going to be able to accommodate Good Times in Goodrich? Because they've come forward, and that was the in the audience.
I was told by the county that they would be willing to cease at that moment if they're in the middle of it all. Cease so that can, proceed. But again, you've got a risk management problem there, so I don't know.
It's tight enough space as it is with the vendors that you have down there. My recommendation is you move it downtown. You go downtown, that's my recommendation.
They're fully aware of it. Being scheduled.
Last year it was tight.
Right, no, it was, we went,
If you put any money, if it does rain for some reason with them digging,
Any comment?
you can make, yeah, look at
Okay, are they starting from the creek going that way first? That was always the proposed plan, that they were starting at the creek and going. If they're truly starting in June, this shouldn't be an issue, they should be out of the way. That'd be the first comment. The second comment is, what is the general plan? Are they going to tear up the basketball courts and the tennis courts? What is the plan going forward? How is that being tore up?
My understanding is being torn up.
Yeah, it's going right down the middle.
Right down the
Of the basketball. So tennis courts are
Well,
fine?
no, between the tennis court and the basketball court, so right in the middle.
Basketball. Both. But they should be done by then.
You got rain to get.
Understood, we've wrestled this with this for 10 years. So, just one more question, so this has been bid out? So we have a winning bidder?
I believe we do.
Okay. And going forward, so they're gonna dig a ditch, and the ground's gonna cave in. What's our plan for that?
The park will be visually closed from entrance to exit. I mean, safety reasons. there could be-
Understood, everyone wants to mitigate the risk, we understand that.
I mean, especially for beer tents down there at night, and this big hole.
Well,
Where'd Joe go?
I don't know, I mean, I guess we can keep an eye on it, but I would say that's a backup spot. I mean,
we've already have backup plans.
Okay.
We do, so the school's been very, very helpful for looking at a lot of things. It's a car show that's gonna be a problem, because you can't put cars on Eagle and close Eagle down, and then, or and have, Erie and Eagle have already said we can't do the full roads. And no one's going up to a car show for the festival down there.
So, I guess, and use management.
So it's the new administrator's fault that this happened.
There you go.
It was all planned out.
Right. Conspiracy.
It was
Yeah,
all
right.
planned out, how to ruin good things in
No,
the park.
we've really had backup plans, so we're trying to be prepared for it, but if they truly do the way they said, they're starting from the creek, they should be out.
I'll keep you posted.
Okay, so now, moving on, code enforcer report. You got nothing?
unless you have something for me.
I don't have anything. I think it's, later on that we talk about the code enforcing business. Okay, Parks and Rec, Wendy, you got anything?
Yeah, we met February 21st, and one of the things we talked about was the friendship path, followed by gear, nurses here to speak about. And we're also looking for the guidelines. We built PNR subcommittee to work on the guidelines for procedures, and we were looking for input on that. It wasn't received at that time, but we put off our March meeting. This is March, yes. We put off this meeting for this month due to most people weren't going to be there because of spring break. So our next meeting will be April 18th at 5:30. And in the meantime, we're hoping to get a report from the subcommittee on procedures. That's about it.
Alrighty.
It's brief.
Yeah. Okay, now moving on to building department activity report. Mine's blank, how about you guys?
That's correct.
Yeah. Okay, so moving right along to the budget report. We're gonna have to start paying attention to this document here for our budget meeting coming up, I believe, next Monday. Was our first one at 7. So, let's put our thinking hats on and figure out how we're gonna spend money, support roads, and anything else.
I'll be sending you all packets this next week.
And, now unfinished business. Adopt indemnification resolution number 2019-2 as amended by council.
When you look up all the out the right structure,
Pardon?
we're not looking at the right.
Not the one, well, you can look at the one with the red, because this is what he amended.
Gotcha.
The other was the original, that was set forth.
Gotcha.
So just, some minor changes, I don't think is anything that, was deal breaking to me when reading through it.
We need a motion for this one?
Yes, we do.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution number 2019-2, resolution of the Village of Goodrich council members providing the indemnification of council members and employees of the Village of Goodrich.
I'm looking for,
Support.
okay, anything further on this?
You might want to just point out to the public that this was on the agenda, and we ran it by the lawyer. That's the changes that were made in red, which you don't have, but this is after being scanned over by the law firm.
Being what?
Scanned.
Oh, scanned, oh, I thought.
Scanned as in.
Yeah, no, I was like, whoa,
Scanned,
let's
yeah.
not be, okay, whew. Bullet dodged. Okay, so, let's do a roll call on this since it's a resolution.
Baraco,
Yes.
Shimataro,
Yes.
McAfee,
Yes.
McCafferty.
Yes. And now moving on to new business. So we have the consideration of the lighting conversion program agreement with Energy Reduction Coalition, Robert FLORKA presenting. So, Mr. FLORKA, come on down.
Over here?
Sure.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Whatever you're comfortable
Yeah,
with.
whatever works for us.
My name is Bob Florka. I'm one of the directors of ERC, which is a Michigan-based nonprofit. And the mission of ERC is to accelerate the adoption of energy-saving technology, primarily lighting. We work mostly with municipalities. I think we just finished up Burton. We're starting Holly shortly. Schwartz Creek is going ahead, and Flushing Township is done, and a bunch of others. I can't keep track of them all. The way we operate is once a village or township council approves the program, we come in and do an assessment of all the lighting and determine what your lighting is actually costing you based on your electric rates and your actual hours of use. So if this room is only in use a couple hours a week, then that's what we're using. And we get that information from, the manager or administrator and DPW generally and what hours of use are. And then we propose a plan of conversion to LED lighting. Once we settle on what that plan is and that's approved, and that's the second step, then we go ahead and pay for it. So we will pay for all the product and all the installation. What the village pays to us is a share of the savings that's actually produced by the new lighting. And the way the program operates is the village's share goes up every year and our share goes down every year. In terms of how long the program runs, it's indefinite. At any point, you can always buy out the lighting and own it yourself. But if you do that, then we no longer maintain it. But as long as we're involved, we will pay the cost of product and labor if any light goes out. So what that means as a practical matter is if one of the new lights goes out and Tim jumps up on the table here and changes it, we're going to pay you his rate to change it, or whatever you're paying him. So
You have to adjust the rates.
So whatever your labor costs are is what we would credit you for in the plan. And again, it goes on, and that's regardless of whether the lighting's under warranty or not when it fails. So it's a partnership idea that we become responsible for the lighting. But as I said, you can always buy out the lighting if you wish. The buyout cost is whatever we spent, and then it goes down every month because you're actually using the lighting, so it's worth less every month.
So the initial investment by ERC is whatever it takes to upgrade to LED, and then the ongoing maintenance.
Okay, on average, what is the average cost of a municipality to, like, let's even like Flushing?
Well,
what-
Flushing is very small. There's just, all there was part of a building, the township hall. And I think Flushing might have been, we might have spent about $8,000 maybe. And their payment to us is less than $100 a month. I mean, normally we get in the beginning and then it goes down every year. In fact, their payment to us is about $55 a month. And that'll go down. Now, when it's that small, when normally we get paid every month, but when it's that small, we just get paid quarterly. Our smallest project was the Quincy Fire Association. I think we spent about $2,000. And our largest was Auburn Hills, where we spent about $1.5 million.
Wow.
Yeah, and I mean, that's such a big project that on maintenance alone, they've been in the program for about 4 years. On maintenance alone, last year, we spent 20 grand maintaining their system. But, you know, I would say, for example, Hamtramck, we spent $230,000. Burton, we spent $160,000. And I can't remember Schwartz Creek offhand. Now, this is also available to commercial enterprise. We've done manufacturing firms and whatnot. It's not just for other, you know, non-commercial entities.
Right, it's not just for municipalities.
The mission of the organization is to accelerate the adoption of energy-saving technology. We don't care who.
Right.
But municipalities have jumped on it obviously for a lot of reasons. The other way you can leave the program is after 2 years, if you decided you wanted to buy your own lighting, you could do that and simply give back what we installed. So you can actually leave the program by buying lighting and giving back what we installed.
Okay, so let's say, I don't, you know, it costs the village, you know, or you put out, it costs you $8,000
Right.
to do this. Then, you know, years go by and, you know, our cost to you is going down, and is there, because you said like it goes on indefinite.
Yeah.
So clearly that's how you guys are able to support,
Right.
like buying other, because it continues.
Right.
So after like we've met our $8,000, these are fictitious numbers, everybody, $8,000 obligation, like what?
Well, it's
like how is that cost
It's rare
basis?
that the value of the lighting would ever get all the way down to zero. It's possible, like we had one project where that actually happened, and that was the Michigan Opera Theater parking garage. And the reason their buyout price got all the way down to zero is because from installation out to about 6 years, they burned the lighting 24 hours a day. It never turned it off. So even 50,000 hour fixtures, eventually you're going to get through it all. It takes about 5.5 years. So at the end of that 5.5 years, their option was to stay in the program, which meant we came along and we re-lamped the whole place again.
Okay,
And they
so if I were,
continued to pay us the same savings rate that they had capped, that they had maxed out at. Or, you know, if you get the buyout price really low, you could conceivably just buy it out. But of course, if you do that, you know, eventually you're going to have to replace all the lighting again. So one of the ideas behind the program is to give you all the options so that if lighting suddenly got really cheap, you could go out and get it and give us ours back. Or if there's an advance in technology, you could jump to that. Although we'd probably be there before you and come in
right now,
and change it.
Are the bulbs themselves replaceable LED bulbs? Because I
Yeah,
know like
so-
in my kitchen, I have a fixture, and if that bulb ever goes out, I can't replace it, I gotta
Yeah, the
replace the
whole
whole
fixture
thing.
goes up. That's a good point. So there's two approaches you could have. With these fluorescent troffers, one approach is retrofit, in which case an electrician comes in, takes out the ballast and direct wires it for direct power. When you do that, there's an LED tube, and yeah, if the tube goes out, anyone can just put a new one in. And the great thing is it's not glass, you don't have to worry about it, there's no disposal issues, it's great. The other option, which we did in Centerline because they wanted everything to look a little fancier, it was just like this actually, is we removed the troffers and put in a flat panel. So it just looks like a glowing stream. Now, with a flat panel, there is an external driver. If the driver fails, an electrician can replace that, but if the whole panel were to fail, then it goes in the garbage and you put a new one in. So maintenance is more difficult. Generally, there's bigger savings and easier maintenance with retrofits, so generally that's what we propose, unless you say, you know, I have some place I want it to look snazzier, and we can talk about putting something in that still saves energy, but looks fancier.
And we're talking about a room with drop ceilings and some pop tiles, I don't know how fancy we're gonna get in
Yeah,
here.
so typically, we would retrofit, and that keeps maintenance simple and inexpensive.
Mr. Florka, this
Yeah.
includes every building we
Yeah, so what we do is we will look at every light that you pay the bill for. All buildings, all interior, all exterior, and we'll look at your street light bill as well. Doesn't necessarily mean you'll decide to do everything. Right now, I'm working with Manchester, and they have a DPW shed with, believe it or not, 78 of these in it.
Wow.
Yeah, it's
Like the
huge.
sun in there.
And they're only in there about 5 hours a week. They decided, because they're not sure about that building, it's really in bad shape, just let's not do it. Which is actually great for us, saves us a lot of money, because there's not a lot of savings to produce when you're operating it only 5 hours a week.
Right.
But generally, we walk in and propose something that'll cover everything, so that no matter what happens, you know that we should be supplying the light and covering the cost of labor.
So who determines the percentage of your cost receivables in the first year and beyond?
So in the contract, what we provide is that for most interior lighting that you're operating business hours, we expect that your initial cost reduction is 20% as opposed to 60% over the life of the lighting. For exterior, it's 10 to 30%. If it's something that you're not operating much, usually what happens is we wind up getting all the savings. So it's a wash to you, except for the fact that we did it and we're covering the maintenance. So, and to us, we're just hoping that you're in the program long enough that eventually, you know, we'll get something back for having changed the light bulb in the janitor's closet that never gets turned on anyway.
With that being said, I'm assuming as you guys grow your contracting, other people to come out and fix these, I'm assuming it's not your...
Yeah, typically, maintenance will be done the way you were doing it. So if your DPW is doing it, they'll do it, but we're going to be responsible for the cost.
Okay.
But if DPW is hiring, you know, a local electrician with a bucket truck to do the parking lot light, that's what would happen, but that's the cost we would cover.
Okay. So we determine the ETA, basically,
Yeah.
repair.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Sounds good.
So you're in control of it. And then we're open to using local contractors that you've worked with before, and that's what we're doing in Otter Lake right now. They have a contractor they like, so we'll use them.
And if we decide to add additional lighting?
That's not a problem. We just had that with Shelby Township. They bought a building, really rough shape. We just redid all the lighting in it and added it to the program. So the other, which reminds me, the other way you leave the program is you don't use the facility. That's actually happened. We did the Berkeley Ice Arena, and then the refrigeration system failed, so that was the end of the ice arena. And so they don't pay us anything because they turned the lights off.
And now what happens to that lighting equipment?
it sits there, and we've asked them to let us know if they sell the facility or they tear it. Most likely, we're just going to abandon it.
Okay, so like you're not going in and like ripping the lights out, so if
Not-
I have
not
to try
worth
and sell a
doing.
building, I have to explain why we don't have
Yeah,
any lights.
not worth doing.
Okay.
Yeah. But
Okay, well,
that, you know, that's the real concept of the program, is you share the benefit that you actually get. So if you don't turn the lights on, there's no benefit to share.
Mhm.
So, that's an extreme example, but
It's
a lot of,
plausible.
oh yeah, a lot of municipalities will open and close fire stations. So we see those go in and out of the program.
Okay, well, anybody? Any more questions or anything? So,
If a subdivision wants to get something done,
Like a, yeah, absolutely. You can look at that. Now, with street lighting that's owned by utilities, we can't own it, we just pay the bill. So typically what happens, the utility says, if you pay us $100,000, we'll upgrade to LED and you'll get these new LED tariffs. We pay the bill and share some of that benefit. But if it's utility-owned streetlights, they're in control of the cost and the contractors and the product. If it's municipal-owned streetlights, which is what they have in Otter Lake, they have a couple dozen, well, you know, we can do whatever we want to do. And that's, you know, so for example, in their municipal-owned decorative poles, I think they have, I think it was 450 watt metal halide bulbs. We'll take that down to about 100 watts. So it's a huge savings.
we don't maintain all subdivision streetlights though, right? Because like my sub is paid by the association, that's why I was.
Okay. Yeah, no, we could do that, absolutely.
okay, so, I would say let's, see like what the cost would be and, well, yeah, it wouldn't be any, it
So
would,
the-
but we could.
Cost
we-
savings.
The process
Right,
is, if you
right.
sign the contract and approve that, then we will go ahead and do the assessment and prepare a plan. We won't implement the plan until your administrator approves the plan. So
Okay.
you run through all the numbers, and then, again, sometimes people decide, you know, something's not worth doing. We're happy not to do it, if it doesn't produce benefit.
Okay, so we would just be basically voting on now to have you do the cost assessment.
Yep.
Okay, well, I'm down for a cost assessment. So looking for a motion. Yeah.
I make a motion to approve to get the cost assessment done by ERC.
Second.
All right, so, do we just need just a yay nay on this, or should we do a roll call?
There's no money on this one. right?
He's doing the work.
Right,
So, yeah, you
okay,
just-
so, all in favor of ERC doing a cost assessment for our lighting needs, say yay.
Yay.
And all opposed, say no. All right.
Thanks so much, appreciate it.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thanks for putting me on early so I could run over the
Yeah,
tape.
no, I apologize if we've kept you too long.
No problem. Take care.
Thank you very much, have a good evening. Okay, now let's move on to approve the WADETRIM proposal for professional services for the SAW grant. That will be presented by Mr. Kevin Cook. So come on down, Mr. Kevin.
Good evening. My name is Kevin Cook. I'm a civil engineer with WADETRIM. Our offices are located throughout the state, but we work out of the Flint office. We've provided you with a scope of service related to developing a stormwater asset management plan related to a grant that was received by the village for $150,000 to complete this asset management plan. I see you all have the scope, and I won't go through it line by line. Rather, I thought if we could move to page 2, where we begin to discuss the 8 steps that are involved in the process. I could briefly touch on those and then field any questions afterwards.
Can we go with questions as we go through the?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep, absolutely. So as I indicated, there's an 8-step process that we utilize. Step 1 being asset management plan, although the entire process is developing an asset management plan. So this could as well be project kickoff. So if we look at steps 1, 2, and 3, asset management plan, mission statement, and level of service, these are meetings with key staff related to maintaining and managing your stormwater infrastructure system. So it would be administration and DPW to begin to develop a mission statement as to the level of service that the village would like to provide relative to stormwater management. Most in particular would be refurbishing of drainage structures and management of flooding in areas of known problems. So then we move to the more critical part, which is steps 4 and 5, asset inventory and condition assessment. According to the DPW, there's approximately 250 drainage structures throughout the village, but there's no mapping or no record information, at least in a usable format. So we would work with the village DPW staff to locate all drainage structures, approximately 250 of them, field survey their location, and build that into a GIS mapping system. All of this under the grant. And then we would open each manhole, determine what pipes are in there, sizes and locations, and then do a physical analysis of each drainage structure so that you then had an inventory of all drainage structures in the village and the condition that each one was in. From that, step 6 would be long-term funding and capital improvement planning, meaning we would develop a list in order of basically worst to best and estimate cost to improve those structures as funding became available. And then last would be a financial analysis based on the funding needs, and then ultimately a maintenance and management system so that the DPW or the village staff would then have an operating system knowing of all of the drainage structures and the order of criticality to repair them and when orders are placed and completed, so that you had a running dialogue of all of the drainage structure information. As I said, the grant was $150,000 and requires a $15,000 match of the city, but that match can be utilized in the form of salary and fringe benefits. So we would anticipate utilizing, and we've spoken with DPW staff throughout a majority of the process, but certainly all the field work to help us find the drainage structures, because clearly they're not all just in the middle of the road looking at you. They're buried in backyards and such. And then to help lift and remove the covers, and whatever effort the DPW can provide in this data gathering will go toward the village's match. So I know it's long and detailed, so I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I have a question. It falls under step 5, condition assessment and criticality evaluation, where it doesn't seem as if the entire system is going to be TV'd
That's correct.
or jetted. So how, without doing that, and with only taking a small portion of the drain system, how can an effective criticality evaluation be complete if only a small sampling is done? Considering that I don't know how old some of the storm drains are, but from my research, most storm drains that are 20 years old and newer should be concrete.
Correct.
They shouldn't be, like, older ones are clay, and then depending on the size of the drain, they could be clay, they could be tiles, like old style sanitary sewers. But with just the amount, my concern is, okay, you know, we've looked at the drain on, you know, on Joe's Road, and that's fine. So now we're gonna move on to, you know, a mile up the street over here to Shannon's Road, and oh, that's fine too. But in between Shannon and Joe is Tim's Road, and that has a tree root growing in it. It's backing up, and we missed that.
That's correct. The intent or the scope of this is to evaluate every drainage structure. And we do that because that's where the water is captured originally. And that's where they tend to break apart because they're built, they're exposed to the elements. So we started there and we said we want to hit and locate and hit every drainage structure and get in there and evaluate those. And then the constraints of the grant dollars limited how much videoing we can do. So when we're in there, we can evaluate the pipes that are coming in. You can see if you get to a drainage structure and it's full of dirt, you know you have a problem. So we're going to clean that out. We're going to jet out the pipes. If you're on Eagle Road and it's a catch basin in the road and you pull it out and maybe the crown up by the casting is damaged, you know, we can get in there and point that. But if you look down and the pipes, you know, appear to be flowing and clear, and because there's no history and no mapping,
Right.
we had to start somewhere. So this will give us a mapping, and it doesn't mean that going forward, you know, areas may pop up, and after this grant is complete, and the village staff can go and do as part of their maintenance and management going forward, and the level of service that, and mission statement, all of these items will create a plan, and the staff can implement that plan beyond this. So the nice thing is, if we find problem areas and we jet it and video it, and it's not damaged, you fixed it, because it should flow now. Now, if you jet it and video it and there's damage, well, that moves to the top of the list.
Okay.
So I think by having an inventory and assessment of every structure, we should have a pretty good idea of, if the structure is full of dirt, then you know you have,
Right, we have a
a
problem.
problem somewhere.
Right, dirt, debris.
Ideally, you know, more than 20% of your structures have an issue. You know, I don't know. I can't tell you.
Right,
that.
and then now let's just hypothetically, there is an issue. That, you know, that there's a spot out here that has, you know, a whole bunch of debris, somebody was dumping tires down in there or whatever, and we have to, it's something that can't be jetted out, but somebody's gonna have to physically go in the hole and like clean it out, or.
That's not
part of the
in
grant,
scope, no.
that's gonna be something that's the village's responsibility
Yeah,
to
in
get
the
that
future,
cleaned
and
out.
we will. This is asset management, inventory, evaluation, and planning for the future.
Okay, so
Yeah,
it's not,
So yeah, if you find I don't know that we'll find anything with tires in it, it wouldn't be large enough, but I understand, full of rocks or debris or, yeah, it will be too large for just a videotape to, yeah, the intent of the SAW grant is not to do repairs.
Not to do repairs,
But the
but
beauty
to
of
assess.
videoing is you gotta jet it out.
Right, and you have a record of it. My husband used to do
Yeah.
sewer line jetting.
And so everything that we jet, you're right, we'll have a record of that. So.
Okay.
You meant golf cart wheels.
No, actually in like Troy, they had tires in some of the drains. People were shoving tires in the manholes, and it was causing huge problems right off 75. Yeah, so that's why I said tires. It's extreme, but it can happen. Okay, I think that was my only, then, under asset inventory, step 4, the costs covered. So these, like this GIS system, which, that's the,
Yeah, the
the
geographic information
Yeah.
system, correct?
So, that would be developed by WADETRIM, and then would we, like,
It would be yours to operate,
okay,
yes. And
okay,
as part of the original application in 2013, the village had requested a new server to run this on. The state is not granting dollars to purchase computer equipment. And the best we've come up with is most of this software is now in the cloud, and they don't want to grant dollars and develop these systems and then obligate the small communities to manage all of the data. You know, it could get lost. So we're anticipating a cloud-based system. There may be the need for a new computer, but not a large server. So that's part of the kickoff and working through that. We left the allowances that were in the initial permit for that. So again, if these software allowances come in less, we can trade those dollars for more videotaping. So the intent is to try to utilize as many of the grant dollars as possible and staying within the framework of the permit, or the grant, obviously.
and then,
My only question is how much is usually typically of the $15,000 that we have to contribute can be made up with salary? Typically, what do you see?
I anticipate a majority of it.
So really,
Yeah.
there's
We're
a
gonna
minimum
find-
cost then to the village then?
That's the intent. We're going to find a way to use their labor hours.
okay, well, that's all I had written down for my questions. Anybody else?
There's a brief schedule on page 6, just kind of our intent. You do need to understand that the grant was issued in May of 2018, that's when it was authorized, and it's 3 years, so it's May of 2021, but we don't anticipate that to be an issue. We have June of 2020 would be final completion of step 8. And you're eligible for reimbursement all the way back to 2013, but I don't believe there's any eligible costs that have incurred, so you're basically ready to go.
May I make a comment?
Yeah.
I think this is a fantastic opportunity to really find out what's down there. 250 in a small town. And we didn't incorporate until 57, and even after that, neighbors just got together and put down pipes, cut through backyards. And they're cut all the time, floods, people get flooded out. Just knowing where things are, we've talked about this in the past, and I think it's an opportunity. And I think we're really gonna be surprised when we find out where the drains go, where they come from.
Yeah, regardless of dollars that are available in the future to do repairs, you're going to have an electronic library of
Right.
everything that you're ultimately responsible for. So, and when any road project comes through, you know, again, I know you have Hagel Road coming. Obviously, it's a, you know, an MDOT funded project, and that will all get picked up, but what else is coming into Hagel Road? Well, you don't know.
Yeah. But I think I should have added, most of these are abandoned, but they're there. They're there, they're getting in the way, they're causing confusion. Not that we're using them, but they're there.
You know, I'm shocked that, since the drain systems in the village have been in the village, I'm shocked that nothing has been done to track them. I mean, this can't be the first time that the drains are gonna be videotaped or or cleaned out. Otherwise, I think we'd have bigger problems than what we do. But I'm shocked that these companies don't keep like a record of that stuff. I know when my husband was doing it, that's all they did was track stuff, diagram it out, send it to the companies, and they kept records of that. I'm just shocked that we don't have something like
And that's
that.
the beauty, that's what this project is all about, the small communities that water, sanitary, sewer, storm, it all fit under the SAW grant. So-
Yeah, no, this is wonderful. Thank you so much, Kevin, for presenting this. So now we need to make a motion for WADETRIM's proposal, their 8-step process here. Pardon me.
I make a motion to approve WADETRIM to move forward on the SAW grant as seen on their March 8, 2019 proposal.
All right.
Second.
Okay, and we have a motion and we have a second. All in favor of WADETRIM's SAW grant proposal, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Kevin. It was nice to meet
We
you.
look forward to getting started.
All right. All right, cost schedule performance. Let's keep on it. Love it. Okay, so now we can move on to, what are we at, 12C? The, what is this? The approve the invoice for the Village of Goodrich share of the expenses for the November 6, 2018 gubernatorial election of $1,387.53. So looking for a,
Looks pretty straightforward. I mean, it's probably a very standard bill.
It is. It is.
Yeah, pretty straightforward. I make a motion that we pay the expense of the November 6, 1918 gubernatorial general election.
I'll support.
okay, because this has to do with money, let's do a roll call vote, please.
Baraco,
Yes.
Shimataro,
Yes.
McAbey,
Yes?
McCafferty.
Yes. All right, 12D, consider year event proposals for 2019.
Before we start though, does Gear want to have anything to say about the time of the drains to be looking apart?
We get a say? We can.
Well, I mean, that's part of
Not your
your,
negative
that's part of your approval,
comment,
so it's,
or-
do you have any changes of location you want to think about?
Yeah, so we have some backup. Do you want us to go up there?
Yes.
Come on up. Come on up. Well, you know what?
Oh, I got it.
Because you're walking for two, I was gonna say, you can park, if you want to park yourself right up here, you
No, it's
can.
fine, I can do it.
Okay. You look great, by the way, Mom.
Thank you. So we have a couple different options that we've talked about, and I guess our number one option, of course, is the park, but we're leaning towards shutting down Eagle, possibly.
We'd like to keep it downtown.
Because then we can advertise. If we have it in Atlas Township, then we can't advertise off the 15th. And I think last year we lacked that draw off the 15th, so we can keep it in the village. That'd be the best.
Let's say, because we know June, you're skipping the month of July, so we know June might be affected by the park stuff, so would you rather keep it in all the same location every single month versus confusion for people that come?
Yeah.
So, I think, I like the idea of Eagle, so it's only be closed down for 3 hours, right? Well, probably 4 to 5, because of the cleanup and setup, right?
Yeah, like, 4:30 to 8:30.
Okay. I just think rather plan it all for Eagle versus, because
Yeah.
at some
Well, it'd
point,
be easier too for the,
people get confused,
Well, and advertisements and stuff like that, if we have to change the location on each advertisement, then
True.
more money.
we're currently talking about the food trucks.
Yes, different.
Yeah, how do local restaurants feel about the food trucks? They're my concern. Like, has anybody asked them, like, you know, because having food trucks down on Eagle Road would take away from, you know, people visiting.
Or it might bring business.
Yeah.
For a drink.
Right.
It could.
We're talking about maybe talking to Smoke and Jay's to see if they would maybe line up bands for us, where they could kind of have entertainment there.
So
Which
they're
again,
not
might draw. No, we have not talked to them, but you know, they bring food trucks in for downtown Christmas, so.
Right. No, I'm,
Yeah,
I like this.
yep, and it's May, June. It's only 4 times for food trucks.
And you guys are limiting it this year, right, just to 5? Is that
4 to
right?
5, yep.
Just 4 to 5 trucks? I know last year that dessert truck was a huge hit. Is that one gonna be one of 4 to 5?
Which one?
I don't
They bought, like the crates or the
No,
ice
like
cream?
the ice cream one, people were,
Or 20?
They only came that one, other than Traverse City one.
Oh.
Oh, Nitrology, the one with the smoke.
Yeah.
and- Yeah, they're not, I don't
Um,
know.
Now, because we're moving it downtown, is there a chance you could get liquor trucks, and beer trucks, or no?
Well, that's, I would hope they'd go to Cranberries and Smoke and Jay's for
Okay,
that.
that's fine. I'm undertaking, I'm not. So you're looking for even the Rudolph trapper next year and all that stuff?
Yeah, so we just kind of laid out our proposals for the year, just to kind of get a head start. The one on the back, you can ixnay that totally because it's at the park and we obviously can't use the park, so.
You guys kind of consider it's like good times and skip that one too, right?
well, that's August.
Yeah, so I'm saying
Yeah,
skip
August.
August.
Yeah.
That's good.
Now, can I ask, like, I know, like the focus of gear is to bring like these things, but is there like something other than events that Gear is hoping to bring back to the community? At a couple of the meetings, you guys were talking about like the sign going over M15, or is there like a bigger project, or is it just like these
We've
like
got
small
quite
community like events?
I mean, I think eventually we'd like to do something big. I know we've kind of partnered up with Good Times and
Mm-hmm.
we've heard their big ideas and, you know, we want to support them and they have some awesome ideas.
Yeah.
So, you know, eventually we have donated quite a bit of money this past year to the school. We did adopt a family. What else did we do?
Yeah, the hats and gloves,
I mean, we're
yeah.
just starting, you know, and eventually, hopefully our account will get bigger, that we can do bigger things. But ultimately, you know, I think our big goal is to have a park, like a true park.
Right.
Common park, so.
Yeah.
Right now, it's just kind of bringing these family-friendly events. Some are moneymakers and some are not moneymakers.
Right.
Food trucks last year was a moneymaker, this year it won't be a moneymaker. So, I mean, we're definitely not in it to make money
Right.
per se, but to bring events, but if we do make money, then we want to.
Right, well, you
Get it.
can do other things.
Right.
I like the idea that you're going to include local vendors and crafters. If you talk to some of the restaurants and the trucks don't mind, maybe you could have them down there for at least one time. Have all the restaurants in town in one spot. I know you talked about it, but I just wanted to bring that out. The M15 advertising has come up, I don't know how many times in the last 5 years. I think sometimes it's brought up as it's impossible to do, the state won't let you do it. think we need to find out the do's and don'ts and put it on the radar. We haven't, we just talked about it. So I think as a council, maybe we later want to spearhead that move and find out what's possible, what's not possible. That would be on us later.
I know that there was something being worked for, the sign ordinances, to allow those signs and banners and that type of thing. So, if the sign ordinance has passed for, the, like, event type signs, I mean, advertising on M15, I don't think would be.
No, it was an issue when we were at the high school because we weren't in the village. We weren't
Right,
allowed to.
but Doug, what were you just saying about signs on M15? You said that the state wouldn't allow us to do
No,
it.
well,
I think it
we've
was our
never-
own ordinance.
It's all been verbal, and I think we should find out. what's
Yeah, no, I think it
official.
was our ordinance that wasn't allowing, for signs.
Well, I know I talked to Sherry a little bit about the signage, and she kind of gave us some guidelines about, we can have it out 14 days prior to, and then it has to be picked up within a certain time frame.
Right.
It can't be in the right of way, kind of similar to what Good Times does.
Right.
Is, basically what we would do, we wouldn't do anything.
No
Lighting
sirens
billboards and
or,
anything
no
like that.
sirens or anything.
No. I'm one of those blow up guys.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
I mean, I feel comfortable saying, put something, move forward on gear events for 2019. I'm not really worried about signage. I'm assuming they're going to go ahead and do their due diligence when it comes to road closures, contacting the fire department, the police department. I say we go ahead, I'm okay with approving their events with the stipulation that the park, the road closure stuff does get taken care of prior to the event. That's all I care about.
Right, I don't see a pressing issue with any of the events. They're not every day, they're not every month, where it wasn't, and it's not gonna cause, complete chaos in the village. But yeah, just coming, like, when it comes time for like the Rudolph run, just to come back and, we need these, what roads and, just to make sure that everybody's like ducks are in a row and stuff.
Well, I think we owe you a thank you for having events in our town.
Yeah, no, they've done a fantastic job.
Right.
So do we need a yay nay thing?
Pardon me?
Is it a yay nay?
Yay, yay. Okay, so, without further ado, I'm looking for a motion to consider gear events, their event proposals for 2019. Yeah.
Support? What are you looking for?
Yeah, I'm looking for a motion.
I make a motion to approve the gear events proposed 2019.
I'll support.
All right, all in favor, say yes.
Yes.
All opposed, say no. No. I need to get more consistent with these yays and nays business, and yeses and no's. Yeah, aye, yes, no.
Thanks, ladies.
When you guys whisper, we can't eavesdrop.
Talking about signs.
I'm teasing.
I'm here for the next one.
Go ahead, sit down, come back up, please.
No, because I can't get back up.
Okay, so now we're gonna listen to Marissa talk about the, considering the addition of a Story-Big Trail to the Friendship Path to be funded by gear.
So this is Hayden Fernald, he's a senior at Goodrich. What we're going to do is capstone. I sent some pictures to Sherry to put in your booklet, oh goodness. So there is a storybook trail in Davison at one of the parks, I can't remember the name of the park. We went there last weekend and took some pictures of what the contraption kiosk would look like. So basically, this would be throughout Friendship Path. Davison's path is a 1/4 mile and they have 12 of those throughout. We are only looking to do 6 from the start to the steps, where the steps will be. And then once the steps are built, then maybe next year another senior can take on the project and do the remaining 6. Or what, however many we went. I don't know, I asked Angie how long the path was, and she wanted to roll it out, but I don't think she has yet. So essentially what a storybook trail is you would take a story and you would make copies. Davison just makes colored copies, and then you would put that under the plexiglass so families, kids could walk through the path and read the story along the way. And then here would fund for the supplies.
What do you have to say?
He's just here for moral support.
Hey, bodyguard.
I drug him here.
Don't you got basketball practice or something?
I just. No, I like it. So who's gonna put them together? You? Or?
Yeah, I'm gonna.
Ted's gonna help.
Okay.
Tim.
I'm gonna help.
So basically, we're gonna follow that design because it seems to have
Yeah.
worked. It's padlocked. There's a rubber seal around the flip up top.
Is there lighting by any chance? Any way we could like put like LED solar light thing on it?
It's in the woods. It's in the woods. You're not supposed to be
Like
in
in
the park after
dawn,
dark.
in the dawn, people.
No, but they're, yeah, that's the dawn.
I got a flashlight on my phone.
I mean, if you have a solar power with it sticks out there and it's just like, oh, you want someone running into it?
So good, I don't think they're gonna put it in the middle of the path.
Okay, all right.
No, there will be no solar lights on.
Well, ERC is like.
Chad, is it Chad?
No, it's just Hayden.
Hayden, what's your last name?
No.
Can you spell it?
FER-NAMB.
Thank you. For the record.
So you're able to go forward?
Yep.
Okay, so looking for a motion to approve Hayden Fernald's project funded by Gear for the Storybook Trail through Friendship Camp.
I make a motion. Go ahead, Doug, go ahead.
What?
Go ahead,
Oh, okay.
take it.
I'll make a motion to approve the storybook trail to Friendship Park as presented.
I'll second the motion. All right, so, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Motion carries. Congratulations, right to connect DPW computers for $456.
Can I ask,
I asked them to give me an explanation, and that's what they gave me, right there.
This here.
Yeah.
Yeah, they went into.
I'm not an IT person, I'm not a.
well, I support it, I want to bring them up to the modern times, and I think that in the future, could be an asset to have that
Right.
computer there.
Right, no, and I'm in agreement with that, but I know, like, I have a friend who has a massive house, and they have one little Wi-Fi thing in the middle of their house, and then they have this thing that they plug into the wall that makes their, like, entire neighborhood almost Wi-Fi accessible.
Extensions.
Right, why wouldn't, even $100, Wi-Fi
I had 2
expander?
of them for $36.
Are they in a metal building?
Is this a
It's
hardwire?
a brick house, I don't,
Is this a hardwire solution? So Ethernet cables, that kind of style? So who uses the Wi-Fi then? With what though? What do we use it for?
Email.
No,
no, the Wi-Fi connections,
So
like
can we
who's
just-
not hardwired
because
in.
my thing is, can we just get rid of the Wi-Fi? Because does guests use Wi-Fi? No, right? Because it's secured. So what's the point of having Wi-Fi if everything's hardwired?
I'm sorry, Tim, I didn't hear the last.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
I didn't hear the last.
Everything is hardwired to the Ethernet cable, like they're gonna propose, and no one's using the Wi-Fi wireless stuff, and why would we have that?
Do we have it?
We
I mean,
do.
are we?
Yeah, they do have wireless.
I mean, I don't know if we're paying extra for that, I'm just saying.
Right, yeah, I mean, that was gonna be my question, is there a cost associated with having Wi-Fi?
maybe.
I mean, I bought a modem and,
Right.
you know, I have Wi-Fi at home, I could have hardwired at home, I have options.
Well, from what I'm reading here, they do not have network connection. So they would not be connected with all of us here in this case.
Aha, network,
Network
keyword,
connection.
network. Okay,
This way we'd be able to send them.
right,
No,
they would be,
Exactly.
they would have access to all systems,
Yeah.
all
Right.
systems village. Okay,
We wouldn't need Wi-Fi.
okay, it doesn't necessarily mean that they can't get Wi-Fi, they need to connect to the network.
Right.
It would be interesting to see like if there was like a VPN that they could get access to the network, but then that would be crazy. So, okay, well, consider quote from IT right to connect DPW computers to, I'm gonna say to the network. Looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion to hire IT right to connect to DPW computers to the mainframe. Is the way you
To
put
the
it?
network.
To the network, okay.
Do you see anything weird with that, Wendy? You're kinda,
Doug, make sure you have that amount.
Oh, not to exceed $460.
Support.
okay, so, we're having a little bit of discussion here. If we look the third sentence up, from there, we will connect a small switch and hang a wireless access point off of that to provide wireless to that area.
So that's what they're doing.
So they're gonna
They're just putting more of those things that you're talking about.
a port in the wall and patched in properly back to the main network closet. So that's gonna get them connected to the network.
Yeah.
But then they're gonna put in wireless access off of that point to provide wireless access in that area. So they'll have both wireless and, okay, I mean, I don't know that wireless, it doesn't cost me any more at home. It costs me the cost of my Wi-Fi router.
Was that on a separate sheet? I don't seem to have that.
There's a quote, there's like the little letter here that.
Yeah,
that talks-
yeah.
And then.
F.
Yes. Yeah, 12F, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and then there's the little blurb from Randy at IT Right. And then behind that is the actual quote.
All right, we're up to speed, because, yes, I remember.
Well, it
looking
says
at
cable drop, $275. Oh, yeah. Yeah, so, okay. Okay, so, yeah, they'll end up with
Both.
the best of both worlds down there.
Roll call.
That's right, it does say cable.
Yeah, cable drop, and then
Right.
it's in their little letter, it talked about the wireless. So without further ado, we have a motion and we have support.
Yes.
And so now, because this has to do with money, roll call vote, please.
Baraco.
Yes.
Shimataro. Yes. McAbey.
Yes?
McCafferty.
Yes. Okay, welcome to the 21st century, fellas. Okay, now authorize administrator to apply for the 50/50 Community Infrastructure Fund Grant, the CIF, maximum annual grant of $250,000. Sherry, do you wanna?
Well, I just received this last week, and it's due April 5th if we plan to move forward with it. I have to get the application in by April 5th. to be considered for the funding. It's a 50-50 match, it's a big match. However, it's for the infrastructure. It's a new grant that's out for, it targets small cities, villages with populations of less than 10,000. The maximum annual grant is $250,000, but a minimum match is 50-50. So, doesn't necessarily mean we get the 250. I can ask for less than that, but keep in mind, whatever, if you allow me to do this, whatever you allow me to go for, we're gonna have to match 50-50. So, it's up to you guys, whether we do this or not.
But it's all village streets, all village roads.
Yes,
I mean,
yes.
Yeah, I don't know, considering the drain project is gonna be starting. I mean, yeah, we're gonna have like road projects and stuff, but I also don't wanna, obligate the village for something that ultimately, we can't do. There's the what if factor. I mean, we already have a couple of grants going right now. I mean, if this is a new one,
But this is allocated for road improvements.
I know, and that's where I'm torn. But, I mean, we
You don't have to go for
we need to have road improvements.
Right.
Right, but we know we're gonna make some road improvements, so if we're
We're
gonna
gonna
make
have an expensive something
$50,000
anyway, so.
worth
You're
of
gonna
road
get another down,
improvements,
for every two.
that would be another 50. We don't have to go for 250,000.
True.
But if you had and that's again, I'm using your $8,000 figure.
Right.
If you had 50 that you were gonna spend on roads
Anyways.
anyway,
Right.
then why
Yeah.
not use it as a
Yeah.
match for this and get 100?
At a minimum, 15,000.
See,
Right.
Pat, that's
You're
why.
gonna do it
that's why
anyways.
It's good that you're here.
So,
You
right,
talked me
yeah.
off a cliff.
I make a motion,
They're accounting for it.
I make a motion to approve the administrator to apply for the 50-50 community grant up to $250,000.
What was the dollar?
Well,
He says up to 250, so are we leaving that open-ended for Sherry to decide what she's gonna go for?
yeah.
Good,
Oh,
all
wow.
right.
You still talk at 125, right? Even
Right.
roads to be able to fix that. I just know we have a lot of roads to fix. And I don't want to have to put the taxpayer as much as possible, so give us money back. That's fine.
Okay, so we have a motion.
Yeah,
Cricket.
I don't know. That's, up, can you apply up to, or do you need to put a specific?
Well, it says the maximum annual grant is 250. Now, is that maximum annual per city? Or is that like, we have $250,000 that we're gonna divide up among 25 communities? Oh, it's 3 million total. Okay, that answers my question. So it would be up to 250. So the village's match would be 125,000.
I like that, Jack. I love that.
Say that again?
If we went for the full amount, the
Right.
village's half would be 125,000.
That's what I think, yeah.
But think about this. Do you think that repairing the roads that the village is responsible for will exceed 125?
Yes.
Then why not?
Because we don't have the money.
We're gonna spend, we're already spending, we're gonna have to spend over 125, right? To fix the roads that we have.
Right, I mean, but we're gonna have to, we have to talk about like the bigger picture. Are we going to go for bonds to assist in covering the cost of the roads? Are we going for a road millage per se to cover the cost of the roads? Are we going for special assessment districts to cover the cost of the roads? There's too many.
But didn't we just
What ifs?
didn't we get a quote for like downtown just recently to finish the stretch?
So I just,
They're having budget meetings coming up.
and prior
Yeah.
to, and, you know, I don't know, I think it's risky. That's,
Well, first meeting's Monday.
mhm.
Can I ask a question? Is this like the ones she talked about before? You don't have to take it if you get it?
Well, you have to take this one if you get it, right?
Right, this is a brand new one, brand new, it's not like the others, no.
I was curious, because I didn't hear anybody say.
Can I ask a question as well?
Sure.
What's
Go ahead.
What's the timeline in which the funding needs to be used? Is it within the year, within two, within?
The year.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, Jim.
What is the budget you have proposed already for road improvements?
Yes.
You do have,
Yeah, we're spending money anyways.
I understand
Right,
if you
but
have,
what's-
you have a
what's
dollar,
we
if you
have-
have a dollar amount, then
That's right.
match that dollar amount, not to exceed that dollar amount.
Right, and that's what we're gonna be
Not to a fictitious
discussing.
amount number.
Right, and that's what we'll be discussing at budget meetings, like what our road budget is. I mean,
Well, my only thought is this, if we don't know that dollar amount offhand right now, we have a meeting on Monday. I know we don't like to add other things besides budget, but this seems time pressing because it's due April.
We could schedule a special meeting after we meet for the budget to see what we've got.
Right, at the end of the budget meeting.
I'm assuming we probably have more than 100,000 for road budget.
Shannon said she And
you
wants
could just
everything we got in
ask-
there.
You could set it at
Which makes
100.
sense if we have enough money for road budget for the year, we're gonna spend that no matter what, right? It's over 100, I know it's over, I looked at it last year, it's over 100 grand.
Right.
So we're gonna spend over 100 grand on the roads, I don't know why we prolong it, you know what I'm saying, because we're already spending it. We're gonna-
Right, but it's not just the roads though that we have to consider, it's the.
Well, this is actually, that one is specifically for the roads in the budget.
Right, but are there other things that we need, just because it's in the budget now, doesn't mean that we can't move it around for next fiscal year, when we're preparing the next year's budget.
Okay, well, we're gonna have a budget meeting first, that's fine.
You know, I think I'd like to see some numbers before we just go ahead and then all of a sudden we can't match it and we're,
We're on correct.
Well, then let's postpone it until we get those figures and then we can schedule a special meeting.
yeah, I mean, I'm all about free money. I wish I could set up a GoFundMe page just for help Shannon have fun.
To go back and answer your question, I think, Mrs. Bernard, it has to be completed by the construction season of 2019, or you lose it. Well, I'm sorry, it may be rescinded.
Yeah, any grant approved for
2019.
FY 2020 funding will be awarded contingent on continued appropriations by the legislature. Only one application will be accepted per agency, but you may include up to 5 separate roadways on the application. The total request may not exceed $250,000.
All right, so I recall my motion for the approval of the administrator to apply for the grant for $250,000 based on the future meeting of budget talks on future dates. Does that sound about right, Sherry?
So you rescinded your
Motion,
motion. Now you made a new motion.
that we relook at it after,
Okay. Got it.
not to exceed April 5th.
We can review it on Monday. We'll have the figures and then I'll put it on the agenda to set a special meeting. When we get the figures.
And if you could, somehow find out what we spent last year on roads.
It'll be there.
Oh, yeah, it would be, would
Budget, yeah.
Okay, so did you actually make a second motion, or was that just a qualification of the rescind?
qualification. Whatever is easier.
It's a golden opportunity to get something. We don't know what that something is, but
So we have a motion to postpone. And looking for a second on the postponement.
second.
Okay, all in favor of postponing the application for the 50/50 SIF grant of $250,000, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say no. Okay, postpone. I have on my calendar March 18th, 7 o'clock for our first budget meeting, which is a week from today. So, maybe we make, roads a priority that day to discuss and try and, do this as soon as possible, because Sherry's gonna be, if we go ahead and say, yay, let's move forward with this, she's only gonna have a short window, and I don't wanna stress anybody out. I hate 11th hour things, but.
Plus, maybe do it from like major concerns to lots of.
Right, yeah, it's like, roads is priority and maybe office supplies, not so much.
Monday the
Monday, the 18th.
18th at 7 p.m.
Yeah, at 7 p.m. is the first one.
You do.
Okay, so moving on, consider adoption of Village of Goodrich meeting room rules of conduct. Oh, if my kids were here. So we've had some people call the office, email us and stuff about various things that we do in the meeting room. So it came about that maybe we should have some rules. And rules are a good thing unless you're one of the McCafferty children. So Village of Goodrich meeting room rules of conduct. Sherry created a little list here for us to follow, and those are use of tobacco in any form is prohibited. No one may carry a weapon into the meeting room unless authorized by law. Only animals assisting citizens with a disability or animals in training for disability assistance are permitted in the meeting room. Soliciting in the meeting room is prohibited. The meeting room must not be misused, i.e. using the restrooms as a laundry or washing facility, or using the meeting room as a place to sleep. It cracks me up because in order for these to be here, it had to have happened somewhere. So, it makes me laugh. No one may interrupt another person as they are addressing the council. Abusive and or vulgar language uttered towards citizens or staff is not permitted. Inappropriate behavior or activities which may result in the interference of the village council members and or village personnel's performance of their duties is not acceptable. Cell phones are permitted on silent ring. Conversations will be conducted outside the meeting room while meeting is convened. Shoes and shirts shall be worn at all times.
What? Shoes are required?
Dang it, I know, I'm gonna have to talk to the girls about wearing their shoes. And they can't come here and sleep, because Morgan's falling asleep.
I gotta tell you, that has happened. We had someone go to the microphone to speak
With no shirt on?
with no shoes.
Oh, no shoes. Ay.
Yes.
Yeah. Damaging, abusing, or misusing village property is prohibited. Any person violating these rules will be asked to adhere to the rules. Any failure to adhere to the rules after being so advised will be required to leave the meeting room for the remainder of the meeting. Persistent or severe violations of these rules may result in the violator being physically removed.
We
I'm gonna opt out of being the one to physically remove somebody.
We actually did have to remove someone one time. It was very silly. There was something very silly.
One thing about cell phones. I'm sitting here, I've been contacted and I don't know, I think somebody else has, but I'm not sure, and I'm not gonna speak for anybody else, but, and it was on me. They had asked me, why were you on your cell phone? Well, I don't know, texting my daughter or something, and it shouldn't have been. but it happened, I should have excused myself. But, in researching cell phones, it could potentially be seen as a violation of the Open Meetings Act. Because who's to say I'm not texting Wendy or I'm not texting Tim and we're discussing something that we're talking at the table and then people in the audience are completely unaware of what we're discussing. Clear violation of the Open Meetings Act. So, with the cell phone, I would almost say that cell phones are permitted on silent ring, but like, I don't know, used by council members other than looking at a calendar or making it obvious as to what you're doing on your phone. I mean, I don't know if we need to have it as a written rule or if we have it as a verbal agreement of.
I had to go against my thing and print the meeting minutes.
Oh,
This time says I couldn't read them off my phone, so I just wasted a piece of paper, but I followed the rules.
I think that's a good idea, that's a good example. Nothing else.
Yeah, so I think, cell phone use by council members should be prohibited, unless it's like, you use your calendar. I know Mr. Light uses his calendar on his phone. I'm old school and I have a paper calendar.
We've used it in the past to like Google something real quick. too.
Right, but as long as I think like others are aware of what we're doing, and if we're sitting there texting with somebody, I mean, I'll be the first one to call you out on it, because I'm learning how to be a tattletale from my daughter.
Looking at calendars, I usually end the meeting too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so,
That's good.
I put my phone on silent, it vibrates. And years ago, someone got smart and they called me four meetings in a row and they danced across the table right in the middle of the meeting. So I usually just take it out. I usually leave it in my car.
yeah,
So
mine's buried in my purse. They could be going off and I'm not aware of it. Or if you're expecting a phone call, I mean, by all means, say, hey, somebody, I'm expecting a phone call, I will happily, adjourn the meeting for a moment or stop it so you can take care of business, and then when you're done with your call, you come back and we can reconvene and start again.
I don't even get signal in here, so how do you guys get signal?
I don't know, Verizon, can you hear me now?
I mean, I just use it for the stuff that you already have downloaded, like the
Right.
Parks and Rec minutes or the
Yeah,
the
so.
calendars, not signal.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's an option. If you have to take a phone call, just say, hey, I'm expecting a call during the meeting, and when you get off, we'll just, time out, and when you get back, we can always start up again. I mean, we all have families, we all have, there's emergencies everywhere, so I'm cognizant of that. But cell phones by council members, I think we should kind of ex-nay, us being able, being on them.
Correct.
It looks bad. So,
A motion to approve.
To adopt.
To adopt the Village of Goodrich meeting room rules of conduct.
Second.
okay, so, all in favor of the meeting room rules of conduct, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no.
I think our aim is to have a meeting that's informative and have as less stress as possible.
Right, they should be professional. We're up here,
Correct.
conducting business. We're
Correct.
not here acting like a bunch of yahoos. Okay, so now, appoint Angie Adamek as the Village of Goodrich Citizen Representative to the Genesee County Metropolitan Alliance.
I'll make a motion to appoint Angie, I say her last name?
Adamek.
As the Village of Goodrich Citizen Representative to the Genesee County Metropolitan Alliance Committee.
I'll support.
Okay, all in favor of Angie representing, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next, schedule 3 additional budget workshops. Well, we can't do it Monday because they're workshops and we make decisions here at the meetings. So,
We might be done by now.
everybody, if anyone has to use their cell phone to look at a calendar, please
Mother, may
feel
I?
free to do so. I love this. This is
These 3
control.
dates are based on what you all presented to me.
Okay, read them out.
Okay,
Read them out.
Monday, May the 6th at 6 PM. Tuesday, May the 21st at 6 PM. And Thursday, May 30th at 6 PM.
I'm good.
Now, that doesn't mean we'll all need all 3, but I'm gonna schedule, if you guys approve all 3,
Yeah.
we'll use as many as we need to do.
yeah, I'm good on those days.
Yes.
My
Good.
daughter just started a travel volleyball league. She's gonna be mad at me, but she'll get over it.
I'm good for those days.
We need a motion.
Well, let's wait and see what Wendy.
Wendy was the first one to respond, and these are.
Oh, she was, okay.
Yeah,
So I
no,
make a
Wendy's
motion,
on it.
I make a motion,
time ago.
Yeah.
Wendy behaved herself.
I make a motion to schedule those 3 dates as cited by the administrator today.
And those were all in May. The 6th, the 21st, and the 30th of May, all at 6 PM. I'll second that. So, all in favor of the 3 additional budget workshop dates in May, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Motion carries. Woo, we're almost there, guys.
Hang in there.
Last round of public comment. This can be on whatever you want to talk about. Let's try and keep it to 3 minutes, address the chair, and again, let's keep it classy, Goodrich.
I just wanted to clarify.
I'm sorry. He got the back of your head, so, all right.
I just wanted to clarify that when you meet for the budget, you do plan to have a special meeting the next time you guys meet? Because of one of the items that you tabled? Is that so?
We might not have it that night, but I will schedule a special meeting, yeah.
Yeah, so before April 5th.
Oh, absolutely.
So I am requesting that at that time that you guys would possibly give your consent for my leadership class to move forward and begin to do trash pickup and basic beautification of downtown Goodrich, to go in conjunction with Earth Day month. We would have to go, of course, around our SAT schedule, so there will be days we come and days we don't, and also weather dependent, based on some student needs. So I would request your consent when we meet again.
And to add to that, I talked with the Republic today, and they are willing to donate a large dumpster for April 20th for that day. So we'll have a dumpster.
Yep, I do plan for, starting April 2nd, if I can, through about April 25th, to be out in town during my class meeting time.